I'm Lynn Piazza, Chair of the Board of Education. I'm going to call the May 16, 2023 meeting of the Woodbridge Board of Education to order at 7:01 p.m. with a reminder to all those watching and participating remotely to kindly mute your microphones to avoid any background noise. This meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting consistent with Connecticut Public Act 22-3. The public may attend in person or electronically via WebEx. This meeting is being recorded and the recording will be available on the district website. I'm going to call roll. Maria Madonic. Present. Sarah Beth Del Creek. Present. Jay Gaia. Present. Brooke Hopkins will be a few minutes late this evening. Jeff Hughes. Present. Stephen Lawrence. Present. Michael Strandler. Present. Aaron Williamson, who is attending remotely. Here. Give us a wave. And I'm Lynn Piazza. Staff in attendance this evening include Ms. Vonda Tensa, Superintendent, Ms. Donna Coonan, Director of Business and Operations, Ms. Carrie Borcherding, Director of Special Services, who is attending remotely, Ms. Annalisa Sherman, Principal, Mr. James Sapia, Assistant Principal, attending remotely, and Ms. Marcia DeGennaro, Clerk of the Board, attending remotely. This evening, I am quite delighted to invite our SCASA and CAPS award-winning students to lead us this evening in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I will call the students up and we will proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll ask everyone else to please stand.
You all, yeah, just stay right there. We'll just get to that part quickly.
I'm going to call upon Ms. Tenza and Ms. Sherman this evening to recognize staff, superintendent, warden, and our staff.
And then students, teachers, our figure if you also please come up. What we'd like to do is in the board book are the student bios that were written to describe these representatives of our school. We can't read every word. For a long time, and some of the things to do tonight over here. In addition to homework, got some other activities going on. We do want to honor you. So what we're going to do is I ask the administration to pick out 2 permanent sentences about each learner up here. So you're just going to hear a snippet, and if you want to know more, for your child's teacher to share, or we can get you the information. We are going to start with Justin Oladley. Okay. So Justin, you're coming over here. So sure. The sentences that we chose to share about Justin is that Justin is an active member in his school community and at home. Around his community, he's served at food pantries. And he helps out his school community as a member of the student council, where he's most proud of the work they did to raise money for bake sales to support the children in Turkey after the earthquake. So we have a nice little round of applause.
invite the parents to come up if you want
Yes.
to take a picture when it's your child that feels hurt.
Okay. Next, we have Finley. Right here. Finley Hoffman. Right, there's a way. Okay. Finley has excelled both academically and as a member of our school community this year. He is a phenomenal role model and a friend to all and a leader. Well, Leia Daigle. So Zelaya is a kind and empathetic member of our classroom community. Have you seen these videos of herself yet? She is a role model for all students by serving as an exemplary classmate and peer, focused student, and involved member of the community. Natasha, there she is. Here we go. Let's right out. Here we go. There we go. Natasha is an exemplary student and role model. Her time at Beecher Road School has had a positive impact on so many lives. She's a kind and caring friend, and she's genuinely inclusive of everyone. It's so Lee Davis. Molly Davis demonstrates leadership to the community and others through her involvement in various school activities. She's a talented writer for BRS News, I've seen that, and will step in to support at other times when needed. Oh. So this is an interesting thing because we also have her brother here. So Natalie, the classroom community is governed by 4 ethics: rigor, integrity, service, and effort. Natalie exemplifies each one of these RISE values both in and out of school. Natalie is committed to measuring herself against unbending standards.
For social research from this New York City institution, like it did in the 1990s.
Yes. Now Jack and Jade were honored as the, Jack and Jade, if you could step forward, they were honored at the SCASA student luncheon. So the students that are standing here with an award were given the CAPS, which is the Connecticut Association of School Superintendents, and Jade and Jack were given the branch of that organization's awards at luncheon, and they were honored there, but I wanted to make sure they got some airtime because they're both two very outstanding students and upstanders in our community. So
Use the first letter 600.
A charming painting of circa 1660 shows a
yes, so we do have some teachers here.
That's correct.
They are Megan Saunders.
When you hear the sound,
Jeanette Lennon, and Rafael is not here. Rachel Robinson spelled it.
First letter 2.
Mr. Chase is also like
Mute. Make sure you're muted. Thank you.
Rafael and Mr. Chase is also not here. They couldn't be tonight, but if we just switch together for one nice group picture. We could do it. Yeah. We could find them in minutes and place its feet up. Monday, we just good. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We won't post this. Yeah. I won't post this, but I'll give it to Mrs. Sherman, and if you'd like it, you may certainly email her and she'll send it to you. Thank you. We really appreciate you coming out tonight. You've really brought a new level of energy to our start of our meeting. You do not need to feel compelled to do the day. I'm being Eric, maybe some number 2. Then you get to yes. We would love for you to grab a cupcake. November. Yeah, they really don't. I just wanted to this evening.
Lynn, it's choppy. We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Request for yes, and I just want to take a moment. We recognize this evening on behalf of the Board of Education. We are extremely proud of the students at Beecher Road School, every single one of them, for their accomplishments. And this is just a small smattering, these students that we recognize this evening, of the talent and enthusiasm that we have here at Beecher in our school community. And so I thank the teachers. I thank mostly the parents for coming this evening, and mostly the kids for all that they add to our school community. Thank you. All right, moving on to correspondence. Sarah Beth, any correspondence this evening?
We received a letter regarding the extended day question and also a letter with a question about the dismissal systems and the administration.
Thank you. And any emails and letters that have been received as board correspondence prior to 4 p.m. today have been posted online in board book as well. Public comment. Is there any public comment? You have public comment, would you please raise your hand in the participants list? I do not see any hands raised. So we will move on to the next item, which is the PTO update. I see Rushi's here. Rushi also provided a written report from PTO that can be found online in board book. But Rushi, do you have anything you want to add to that this evening? Can we hear you, Rushi? Try again, Rushi. You have to unmute yourself, Rushi, and then you can speak. Are you all set, or you can't unmute yourself? Okay, so let me just highlight a couple of things, Rushi, because I was so impressed with the things that were written in the PTO highlights. One was the math night that was so well attended. About 100 students and families attended the event. Such an exciting thing for the PTO to sponsor. Thank you for that. The spring PTO book fair, always a favorite for our students and our staff. So many thanks for your efforts with the PTO spring book fair. And I can't tell you how happy the staff was. I was here for a couple of meetings during Staff Appreciation Week, and the teachers were just delighted. The staff were just thrilled with the many activities and ways in which you acknowledge the hard work of our staff. So we thank you so much for that. For the public's information, which you would want to do, it's the upcoming event of the evening at Quasi Amusement Park. Mark your calendars for the 19th. Tickets are $30. For every individual over 12 months of age. Arts Week celebration, I believe, is next week. Family night on the 25th. And sixth grade graduation activities will include the pool party on June 9th. The PTO board for 23-24 will be elected during May. PTO meeting on the 18th. So we thank you, Rushi, for all that the PTO continues to do. Oh, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks for reading the whole report. I wanted to actually add few things, if it's okay to take 2 minutes.
Sure can.
Yeah. So one thing which I forgot is the field day this year. So it's going to be a little special treat for all Beecher students. So PTO is happy to, we funded the big, large obstacle courses and dry big slides for both north and south sides. And we hope to continue this support and as a special treat to the students at the end of the school year. And I also want to add that PTO has revised the bylaws earlier this year. So according to which no individual will be at the same position in the board for more than 2 years, which would mean that you would be seeing probably new faces every year or every other year. And I realize this is the last board meeting before the school year ends. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to thank each one of you, the school administration, teachers, how collaboratively the school and the PTO works. And I remember when Ms. Sherman last in April meeting, she presented about the space crunch. I was having so much self-guilt and also more appreciation for the school because PTO just comes up with new events every now and then and just goes and tries to enter every corner of the room without realizing how much they're accommodating, and they've never shown school has never shown any resistance to that. So thank you all for that. And I just want to add one small feedback after this my whole year being with you all guys that this district is very special, means in literally it's special, also the way it functions, right? Because one board, one superintendent, one school, and because of which PTO is on board meeting agenda, right? This is unusual for a PTO to be presented in, to be representative in board meetings or subcommittees. But because our board would be changing sort of every year or every other year, so I would just suggest like if any policy changes, which we know like happened this year, like if they can be proactively informed to the new board so that parent volunteers are not going through like, you know, a navigation process of like how to figure out and then back and forth. And also like we work very in close connection with principal and teachers, and we meet superintendent also occasionally. But in the beginning of school year, if the board also can spare like one meeting with the PTO representatives, I think it will just make this inclusivity of PTO more impactful and meaningful. This is just a small feedback I have. So I enjoyed working with you guys, and this week we will have the new board elected, and I'll report whoever will be the new board. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ruchi. Number 2 on the agenda, consent agenda. The minutes from the April 18th regular meeting are included in this evening's consent agenda, along with the budget narrative, the budget summary, the detailed financial report, and the combining financials. Is there anything that a board member wishes to extract for discussion from tonight's consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to accept the consent agenda. Maria,
I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
do I have a second? Stephen? Motion made by Maria Madonna, seconded by Stephen Lawrence. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous, Marcia. Thank you. Number 3, reports. Superintendent's report. Ms. Trunza.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I have a few things to share this evening, so I'll try to move through them pretty quickly. The enrollment for the month is in your packet, and this month we have 866 students. Our benchmark number for October 1st of 2022 was 845, so we have a net increase with our ins and outs of an additional 21 students as of April 1st. Some building updates that I'm sure may be touched on, maybe even in more depth during the subcommittee reports, but the RFQ that's currently up for bidding regarding a portion of our roof and sections of our walkways and drainage. Invited interested bidders to our building Friday afternoon at 4 for a walkthrough to see the scope of the work. The potential bidders didn't have to show up in order to bid. We did have one vendor show up and complete the walkthrough with us. The part that I want to bring up as the superintendent regarding this topic is that, you know, I did report to the Board of Selectmen last week that this RFQ is to address one portion of our very large roof, as well as portions and sections of our sprawling grounds. It's important for our community to remember that this building was built and added onto in various stages since 1960, and it will need attention in various stages as well. So basically, I'm saying we're here now asking to do this work, and we will be back in the future repeatedly. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I appreciate the town's ongoing support of this and to help address this project. As this is a town building, it's important to remember that the district operating budget does not place funds in our budget to address large costs like roof replacement, ground repair, etc. Those would be capital level or bonded at the town level. And so I just want to remind everybody, we're excited to get this work done, but just like home repairs, it's a never-ending process. And this is a very large home, very sprawling surface area building. So it's going to need attention in different areas. Along the same lines of buildings, the ad hoc enrollment instructional needs and planning committee has 2 meetings scheduled in May, one of which is tomorrow, and one is May 31st. We're going to continue to examine current and future needs and space collaboration efforts to try to see what we can do to arrive at some decisions. This ad hoc committee is not making any recommendation about building a new building or reconfiguring the one we have. We were exploring options, which will then need to go to a different committee to really make some instructional decisions about space utilization with architect involvement. We are definitely exploring possibilities, but the decisions will be made by a different committee. And with that in mind, I do want to quote a few sentences from the Beecher Road School Town and Building Committee from May 5th, 2010, which is almost 13 years ago. So 13 years would be from when a kindergarten started here until they graduate next week from Amity. That's 13 years. It's important that decisions be based on a vision for the future and not on what needs to be done now. This is 13 years ago. The building size is excessive and not efficient. It may not be in the best interest of the town to sink millions of dollars into a portion of the school that has exhausted its life cycle. However, sentiment still exists for having all of our children in Woodbridge attend one school. There is no way, over 13 years ago, to determine programming requirements for the next 15 to 20 years. In all probability, it is not likely that our needs for space will diminish. And they haven't. There are tremendous storage problems, and some spaces used are not designed nor intended for their current use. I just found it interesting to be able to share with the community that 13 years ago I wasn't here, and 13 years from now I will not be here. But I do not want our minutes to be read again 13 years from now with those same quotes that you could just interchange a date. So I'm going to move on to some more positive notes. Just Friday, the state of Connecticut Department of Education released some small grant allocations designed to support our districts across the state with the Right to Read initiative. Woodbridge is still waiting on the reading waiver to be reviewed. The state has not finished contracting with an organization to conduct those reviews as of yet. Woodbridge received $25,000 for next year and $25,000 the following year that can be used either towards new programming or professional learning and resources. At this point, without having to read too carefully, we anticipate those funds will support professional learning and resources. Another positive, very exciting opportunity that I shared with the board this past weekend is that the state is holding a 3rd round of a master class in science reading professional learning. And it is targeting really at the district level commitment to learn about cutting edge reading and literacy practices. And it requires the superintendent and the building administration to be part of the 5 plenary sessions and, some action studies with some other districts that we're partnered with. And the state of Connecticut picked Woodbridge as one of the 20 districts that we have to go meet in a few weeks, and they'll talk to us. And out of those 20, they'll pick 11 to do this exciting work. And I'm campaigning hard for us to be one of the 11. Building administration and I continue planning with consultant Dr. Michael Rafferty regarding summer curriculum development. And I'm just pleased to share that we have over 20 teachers excited to do this work. The last 4 days, the next 4 days after school gets out. So that says a lot about our staff that they're willing to come back right after school ends. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and Rushi made it sound so simple. She's so humble, but Rushi raised the bar. That was their theme, and it's literal. She and the PTO led an amazing effort to raise the bar and appreciate our teachers through coffee bars and dessert bars, and it really was wonderful. Our learners in this school are thriving as a result of outstanding teachers and partnerships who develop strong individual relationships with our students. That does make a difference. And, I just want to appreciate everybody. And lastly, last night at the Woodbridge Town meeting, the budget was accepted as it was proposed at the preliminary budget meeting. I sent that note out to our teachers this morning to let them know. So this is great news. It means that our budget will be $17,017,091 for the 23-24 school year. This number returns our budget to the original proposal amount in December made by Interim Superintendent Syriac, plus an additional small reduction of $50,000. That represents a total reduction of $208,240 from our approved budget. Donna Coonan and I have been busy along with our administrative team to identify areas of reduction to our proposal for the board's consideration that will allow us to continue to support and advance the educational mission, vision, and goals of our school district. Donna and I would like to verbally share some of the areas in which possible reductions can be made to meet the budget number. We will further discuss them of our June 20th board meeting, and we will get that information out to you in writing later this week. It's just that by the time I get home last night into today, we have a verbal list to share, and we will send that along for you to think about. And then in June, we can make some decisions. As one of the decisions could possibly involve hiring of personnel, it is important that we make a decision in June because we want our applicant pools to be as robust as possible. So we're going to move on and share that. And before we do share some of that information, I just also want to point out that at the end of my sharing, I'm going to give the board some homework because in July, I even labeled it homework with little due dates. And I printed it. In July, we're going to talk about vision and mission. And so I compiled some visions and mission statements from just a few random, and I do mean random, school districts as well as organizations. You know, so like Tesla, you're going to see Tesla up there. They're not a school district, but high-powered companies do have a clear vision and mission. So I want you to do some thinking about ours. Ours is the one in yellow, and just some examples that are out there as well as the purpose. And then when we come together in July, you could bring staff or you can just bring your ideas. But that'll be your homework. So I'll pass that out while we're. Okay, I'm actually going to ask Donna to talk about.
Give your voice a rest. Okay, so to get to the number that was adopted, we need to cut $208,240 from what the Board of Ed put forward. 158 roughly of that was we added a STEAM teacher and a paraeducator and the associated payroll taxes and benefits associated with those two positions. So that could be part of our road back down. In addition to those, we asked to find $50,000 of additional things, and just some things that are breaking in our favor are health insurance. Final number came in a little better than I had put in the model. The amount that we had put in the budget, estimating for what we contribute to Ezra Academy for their nurse, is based on their enrollment, and their enrollment this year is significantly less than it was the year before, so that would save us. Our new grant that we were awarded for mental health, our school psychologist, who wasn't in the general fund, but their benefits. So their benefits can now be offloaded to that grant as well. So that will save us another $13,000 to $15,000. Our MERC unfortunately came in higher. And I also found just a little mistake in the model that was, about $9,000. So, we had to go beyond that. So, see, did I miss anything? The cafeteria is doing very well this year, and they have quite a bit of a surplus. So this isn't something that you could count on every year. But while they have it, I think we're going to propose that the health benefits of the food services manager get paid for by the cafeteria. And also there's a custodian that works half a custodian time is spent on the cafeteria. So while they have it, I think they can reimburse the general fund for half the custodian. So that's very good. Combination of all those things to get us there. However, if the board you know, has some other ideas or, you know, isn't willing to give back some of these things, you know, we can always go back and look, you know, we have some items in technology that could, you know, maybe we could use some of our current surplus to get a jump on them or move them or part of them to a grant that could get reworked, you know, in the out years. So we'll be, you know, putting together something that we can send out to all of you with a little more nitty gritty for you to think about.
And then if you have questions, you can certainly email us or call us or text us. Before June 20th, but at least you'll have the information to think about. And we'll talk about it in the finance committee as well.
So be prepared for to take action on where we will make those cuts for the June 30th meeting, please. Anything else?
Well, that's enough.
You got more?
Yes. Well, I think you should mention it, but Arts Week is coming and they have a packed agenda and it's all very exciting and it's all very colorful. And, you know, primary color day, secondary color day, complimentary color day, video teacher compliment, love that. Some yoga happening. There's a Thursday night is the concert and the ice cream truck and the pollinator path and very exciting. I'm very excited to take part of it. I'm waiting for my t-shirts. I ordered it. Friday we get to wear our Arts Week t-shirt and sing Peace Like the River, which is wonderful. It was great books.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
June the 30th.
June 20th. June 19th was our meeting, but we moved it to June 20th in case anyone wanted to acknowledge Juneteenth. I'll be saying that later in the meeting as well. Just as a reminder, so June 20th will be the night that our regular board meeting, and we will need to take action on the changes in our budget. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments on the superintendent's report or the budget update? No, don't see any. Lisa, do you want to sit here?
That would be great.
Join us at the table for your report. Good evening, everybody.
So some of what I'm sharing is a little bit of a repeat of what Rhonda mentioned, but it's all worth repeating. So I do want to give a big shout out to the PTO for Teacher Appreciation Week, but also to all of you. The ice cream truck is a huge hit at Beecher every year. I think that everyone was very excited that it came back again. So really big thanks to all of you for doing that for the staff at Beecher. And the PTO really did raise the bar. Like Rhonda said, it was an amazing week. My favorite day might have been the day that all the kids came in with flowers. Like I stepped out of the office and I was overloaded with flowers immediately. And it was literally the best thing in the entire world. So that was a really special week. So many thanks to all of you and to the PTO. We are right in the middle of our Smarter Balance testing. Those of you with students in grades 3 through 6 should know that already. We already completed our English language arts testing and we are working on our math testing right now. Our students are doing a really, really great job as a learning community, making sure that we're respecting the students who are testing. They're being really, really quiet in the hallways and they're being very supportive. Some of the book buddy classrooms made signs. So there are some beautiful posters hanging up outside of some of the upper grade testing students' classrooms from their little first grade book buddy saying, you know, good luck and you got this. And it's really very, very sweet. And coming up is Arts Week, like Vonda said, the themes piece. We're really excited about that. It's going to be a really exciting time. And we are definitely working on singing Peace Like a River. Vonda already talked about that, but dig into that too much.
Sorry.
What?
Sorry, it would make you.
That's okay. That's okay. It's good. It's worth reporting. It's worth reporting. We also welcomed back our high school interns this year. We haven't had them with us in a few years because of COVID restrictions, but this year we were really, really excited to welcome them back. I actually had so many teachers on the Beecher side that wanted interns. I was emailing the intern director, seeing if she could send us more. but we have to share, which is something that we're good at. So we were able to welcome back a lot of interns. It is really fun to see these kiddos that were once upon a time ours, and they are back again to be with us and visit their teachers. And I was talking to one of them on the first day, and she was telling me she didn't remember how small everything was. And I was like, it's the same size, kiddo, like you just grew. You're just considerably bigger. And then I brought her into a kindergarten classroom because she had some free time, and she was like, oh, like trying to sit down. So it's really fun to see them back again, to have them back in our building, and they're doing a really great job with the students. There's a lot of really fun end of year activities coming up, but more specifically, our students are engaging in lots of end of year learning activities, just as a way to keep the learning fun and engaging as, you know, the weather gets warmer and attention spans get shorter. I need to give a shout out to my K team who are once again doing the alphabet days, the days down to the end of the year. So today was flashlight day. I was in a kindergarten classroom and they were flashlight signaling their art words. So that was really, really fun, and saying can't really read flashlights, but kindergarten is spelling with them. And then in 6th grade, I actually told the 6th grade teachers they should have come dressed the way they were dressed today, because it was dressed like a teacher day for the students, and it was dressed like a student day for the teachers. And the teachers did a pretty awesome job with it. They really did blend right in. They had it was really and then in 3rd grade, I know that they're working really, really hard on their animal adaptations. So there's a lot of fun learning happening, and just trying to make it exciting as we round down the year. And Vonda already mentioned this, but Mike Rafferty is coming. We are super excited to work with him. He actually, in conversation with us, asked if he could come and visit. He really likes to get a feel for the school, and the learning, and the kids and the teachers, which I was super excited about, because I think Beecher is in a magical place, and I want everyone to come and see how amazing it is. But it's also just valuable information to just walk around the building and see what's going on. So he's actually going to be visiting us later on this week and checking out some of our classrooms, and I know he's excited to do that. And that was it. That was the end of my updates, actually, because I already talked about Arts Week. So that was all for me. Any questions? Great.
Anyone have any questions for Lisa? Exciting things at the end of the year, Sherman. And shout out to you, Mr. Sapia, for your assistance in the Smarter Balance testing as well.
Wait, I should have mentioned, when you mentioned Mr. Sapia's name, I should have mentioned that some of the 6th grade students today actually dressed like Mr. Sapia with the sneakers and all. So he found a few friends wearing with the sneakers. It was pretty impressive. No one dressed like me except for my own child.
Well, you're a rock star, Mr. Sapia. Next on the agenda is the Town Building Committee for Beecher Road School Capital Projects Update. Mr. Hughes.
Great, thank you. Always a tough follow, Principal Sherman's update. As our superintendent stated, we had a walkthrough for bidders on May 12th. We had one contract show up, but again, to complete, anyone can still bid. I believe 2-week period, we can accept questions on the project. So we're in that period right now, and then hopefully some bids will start coming in. Start going through them. Perfect.
Thank you for that. And you're up again for Facilities Committee.
That's a tough follow. Okay, facility on May 4th at 7:30 a.m. We gave that the report as expected. And keeping up with repairs and north entrance and also kitchen. Essentially, we're gonna limp along until this project gets underway. So Vito and the team try their best. Also, some AC unit repairs and filter changes as well. One awesome thing that Vito and his team did is custodial survey sent out anonymous surveys that I would call customers, so we could get some unbiased feedback. That's a great initiative the team takes. Super helpful. Really helps in zero down as expected. They got excellent results and also some learning experience. So good job on that going out. And that's basically concludes the facility.
Thank you. So I failed to ask if there are any questions on either of the students' reports this evening. Okay, then we'll move on to the Finance Committee report. Mr. Lawrence.
All right. So it's a happy report. Our fiscal year is 83% complete. as of now. And the total projected savings combined for all categories is now currently estimated at $125,000, up from $80,000 we reported last month. Donna keeps finding money, and we keep supporting her in finding money. So to be more specific about where that's coming from, first off, for the 100 series, we have salary savings at this point of about $358,000 projected. That was up from $340,000. And this is primarily due to the mental health grant that Vonda and Donna mentioned, with being able to allocate some teacher costs to that grant. So that's giving us good savings. 200 series, we have savings now projected at 21,000, up from 19,000 in April. And this is due to fine tuning of FICA, CMERS, which I really don't even remember what CMERS is, and medical insurance estimates. For the 900 series miscellaneous expenses, we have savings of approximately 12,000. That is down slightly from 14,000. Was reduced a bit from April due to some possible year-end expenses, taking those into account. And then the really big surprise is that the 400 series has moved from the deficit to the asset column. So basically, this is purchase property services, which is forecasted to end up about 17,000 under the budget due to lower natural gas and electricity costs. And also on a positive note is that with this surplus is already accounting for potentially encumbering funds of about $40,000 for the unfunded HVAC mandate. So that, and we'll talk a little more about that shortly. On the higher expense side of the ledger, we have the purchase professional services. That's now forecast to be about 98,000. And that's an increase from the 78,000 deficit we were projecting to be. Donna was projecting April. I'm just like looking at like it's in my but so some additional costs that were included, of course, we've got the unbudgeted superintendent search, a single year audit for the prior fiscal year, unanticipated temporary staffing due to a medical leave, and the unbudgeted purchase of 2 additional software modules for our Munis ERP. So those are factors there. Other purchased services are currently running 182,000 over budget. This is due to outplaced tuition, special transportation costs. We've talked about this. It's lower than last month. We were actually projecting a $198,000 shortage in this category. It's lower because we actually don't anticipate a $16,000 transportation of replacement transportation costs because we don't see that actually happening before June 30th. So that will be a savings. And then it's important to keep in mind that most of this expense will be covered by the excess cost grant. So allowing for that, assuming the number stays at 182,000, that would basically mean just a $15,000 overage in terms of that budget line. And then finally, for materials and supplies, we're now projecting running about $2,000 over budget as opposed to $5,000 in April. Basically, we're getting to the end of the year, so there are only so many supplies that can be used in the next few weeks.
So, just for clarification, CMERS is Connecticut Municipal Employees Retirement. It's for those people who don't pay into the state teacher retirement fund.
ERP.
Right. ERP is for certified. Right. Teacher retirement boards for certified, non-certified pay into Connecticut municipal employees. Any other questions though about the finance?
Just on a general strategy. So what I see is a great savings. I'm going to hold salaries the 100 section. What worries me on that is that we haven't had the powers that we sort of wanted because of the labor market. So looking at next year's budget, have we adjusted that to this number, or have we continued?
We budget based on the positions.
We wanted. So that's one of the reasons for the big share. We'll have the same issue. That's my ready. 60,000. Special education teacher, we've got a Woodbridge $100,000 in. Was that because we had an outplacement or was that?
We
related
had,
to the other?
I'm not sure if it was 3 or 4 over the summer. Retired teachers hired with newer teachers, so with a big salary, yep. And we had a retirement or a resignation during this year that's now being staffed by someone that's part-time, so anything left in their encumbrance went away, so that's.
I mean, we got this 125,000, but I'm gonna argue it's because we're down on the FTEs in a way, because we're using part-time for full-time positions.
So,
We have another labor market. Next. They may not be anywhere near this because that is the issue. And then I also looked at some of the substitute, and I know we encouraged a new poll there.
yes,
And has that been a major reason for this cost? Or
yes, because we were having, and I'm not sure I can speak to the intern conundrum specifically, but one, we were having trouble getting them. 2, there's some change in the program where it wasn't as beneficial to us. They weren't available to us for it, what we wanted them to do. I'm not sure if I'm saying all that, but so yes, and so then we were paying for that. So we kind of made a decision to change the model that we would, we took the ones we could get. I think we had about 4. And we just intended to kind of run over on our stuff. I mean, we could do a budget transfer if we want to just clean that up a little bit. So, and then like I mentioned with the, that maybe or they're resigned, we are filling some of those things with long-term subs. All those things are kind of driving that subline up.
And then you also got a line for the that's leave one side.
That we did do the budget transfer. So, right, we would have had larger tariff savings, but we took about $76,000 of that and moved it down to contracted
See, this is
services.
why I'm, this is one thing that I was confused with. So it's really a salary. So I see that as a salary line, would have moved that up, just would have moved that up in the salary section. I don't know, that's the worst. That's what I would have done instead of exceedingly reflect the salaries, that's 7,000.
Not sure I exactly following you. So you wish we hadn't done the budget transfer or?
No, so what you go to, what it's. Put that in as a separate. So that these will.
We can make this with that.
Right, if you kind of say, this is exactly what we're using.
Yeah, contract.
We're taking it away from. Yeah, so it's a salary, and that's why I thought the 100 seats. So it's good, thanks to seats, surplus, but like I said, I think looking forward, that's what I care about. It's gonna be tight again going. forward
Right.
next year.
Right, yes.
Thank you.
So we have sound going in and out.
So maybe
Aaron having difficulty hearing.
maybe people
should, that's okay, maybe you should unmute when you need to talk.
What do we need to do, Anthony? Okay, we all, everyone at the table needs to use an outdoor voice. How's that, Aaron? Okay. Great. Any more questions about the finance committee report? Okay, we're gonna move on to the Danville air quality.
Did you really, I get it, so when they cafe, is there a particular requirement what is going to be the gas fee, and the minimum sort of maximum fund period?
Can't think of anything with gas fee, but the like the COVID relief supply chain money that we got, they have given us like a Excel calculator where they have given us, they have identified how we are going to use that surplus. We just put it in order for some ovens. We're gonna ask for another staff person next year to help the line go a little faster. So we,
And I think that also makes sense. You said the benefit for them, then
that's right.
already direct. costs.
Right.
From if we go early until by the staffing.
And people don't, any year that we can do it, we should do it, but there are, years where they can't get it, and so you kind of don't want to count on it.
You do have a very healthy fund reserve.
Yeah.
So I think that's something. I thought it was a great idea. Thanks.
And it actually, in finance committee, we mentioned that, she's on cash basis still, and they are behind, so I think it's gonna see another $100,000 of money revenue that will need to accrue if it's not here yet at the end of the year, so it's gonna get better.
My last question is our legal fees. The billing is always the they with that.
As far as I know, we are, so.
We have last legal bills
Oh,
this
that's
year.
good.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. That's the one I was worried about.
Right, that-
There is a special education mediation in mid-June. That's that, but
That will have some cost.
nothing else.
I know that always leads to.
Yeah. Great. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the Van Zell Air Quality Audit. And I'd like to thank Donna for inviting Bill Donald from Van Zell to attend. He is online remotely in case we have any technical questions. Bill has kindly, hi Bill. Thank you so much for joining us. Nice to see you this evening, and he's here if we have any technical questions that help us out to answer. I don't know, Stephen, if you have something you want to say to start, and then Donna, Vonda, and Bill are here to answer any questions.
Great. So the due date for the unfunded air quality mandated assessment is January 1, 2024. This is not included in the $125,000 surplus. As I noted, this is already accounted for in our current budget. Benville Engineering has worked in our building, knows it well. They've provided us with an estimate of $34,983, so about $35,000 to do the testing, which is $5,000 to $15,000 less than Van Zellen's competitors. Included in that fee is Van Zellen conducting a survey of room sizes and our current equipment. And then wings testing and balancing, which is, I believe, a subsidiary, is how I'll characterize it, of Van Zellen, measuring the air flows. This would take place this August of 2023. This does not include any repairs they may identify. Staff's recommendation is that we enter into a contract with Van Zellen Engineering. We had a robust discussion at the finance committee meeting about sort of holding our place in line. And if we lose our place in line, we could really be challenged to actually get this testing done in a timely way. And we want to request board's approval to do this without the formal bid process. So do I need to make a motion before we get to discussion? Or
If you make the motion and we have a second, then we can have discussion and questions.
let's do that. I make a motion that the board authorize, oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, it's official. All right. I move that we authorize the superintendent and or other designee to enter into a contract agreement with Van Zellen Engineering to complete the state mandated air quality audit.
Thank you. And do I have a second to that motion? Jeff Hughes. So we have a motion made by Stephen Lawrence, seconded by Jeff Hughes. Now we'll move on to questions and comments about the proposal and the motion.
Very quick question. So we got a verbal quote from another vendor.
Outside voice, Jay.
Sorry, we got a verbal quote. Another vendor. We have it written down exactly. It like the like.
It was like, there's another vendor that knows our building and it said, this legislation, what do you think?
ballpark, you know, we just got a $40,000 to $55,000 for.
Okay. Just say, just write this down.
Oh, we would not.
Whatever it is, and just let's get the documentation under, because I know it says verbal. Once you write everything down, then. Then. So then you don't get the, yes, we're gonna fill out anything. And at least we got that backup to say, we had to get over to.
It's some
We did.
due diligence.
So that's what I'm. Thank you.
So you did note in board book, Jay, the Van Zelm.
I thought it was, I just the third one that I
Yeah,
just wanted something.
okay, just want to make sure
It's,
you.
it's like the like.
Yeah.
This is what they quoted as the approximate. Yeah. Just keep it, and there's. We have that second. quote.
Right,
That makes sense.
just wanted to make sure you saw the answer.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any technical questions for Bill after we had you sit here, Bill, and?
Oh, this is easy. This is an easy night.
So if I'm interpreting this correctly, there's no. This is a one-off contract rather than a maintenance.
Yes, it's something we'll have to do every 5 years, but this will be it.
Does it make sense? Goes to the reserve each year, we build up to what the cost would be.
It's a good thought, Jay. And encumber those funds each year? Yeah.
Would be a roll.
We have to give them to the, you know, we have to give them back to town, but we would have to say, we're doing this to what's not so painful.
Yeah, that would we talked to Tony about it. Yeah.
That's a great idea, Jay. Maybe we funded the.
We need to sort them out.
Right.
We need to set a fund.
$70,000 a year. to put aside.
Just mentioned thinking fountain. In the summer.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the period, whatever the difference is, we cover goes to record.
It's also good to remind the other boards that this is coming up every 5 years by either reminding them to encumber the funds or with some type of agreement like you're mentioning, because we don't want that to impact our instructional budget every 5 years.
That's my worry. You've got this 55,000, it's gonna grow. Coming in every 5 years, the next board members to know where did this come from? If we have that sinking from ease out further.
So Bill, could you talk to us a little bit about when you would anticipate doing this work and when we could anticipate getting a report from you?
Sure. So there's two pieces to the process. And one of them is the Van Zelm piece, and the other piece is with our subcontractor Wings, who actually has the bulk of the expensive work, I should say. But we could do the Van Zelm piece of doing the auditing interior could be done right after school gets out. And I think we talked to Vito about a 2-week window in early April, I think, Donna, right?
August? In the
I'm
summer?
sorry, did I say April? I meant August. Yeah, so they're gonna need both of those weeks to go through, because given the size of the building. So we would have all the work completed, most likely by, and compile the report by the end of August, early September.
Perfect.
Somewhere in that timeframe.
Perfect, great. Thank you. Any other questions?
Nothing's changed since.
I have, question for legislation changes.
There have been no changes. If anything, we anticipate that it may be delayed a year, but we have no indications that it's going away at all or being reduced.
Yeah, it's not going away. The gentleman that we've partnered with is actually on the committee that's dealing with that regulation. So we tend to get information, hot off the press once it's decided, and it hasn't been voted on yet to extend it.
I have a question. They did extend it 5 years in the extension. Right, so we'd be covered for 6.
That's a good question. I don't know. I
Did you hear that question, Bill?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
So I asked the question, if we did do the work this year and they extended it by 1 year, would we then be covered for 6 full years or 5 years?
I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure I heard all of that.
So Jay was saying if they did give a 1-year extension, the legislature gave a 1-year extension, would that also then give us a 1-year extension so that we would, instead of having 5 years, have 6 years?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Maria?
Bill, I wanted to ask a question. Do you have any information about whether perhaps they would hear how often we had to do this assessment based on the results of the air quality test? Like if our building scored very well, would that give us even more time? Are they working on some kind of sliding scale where if you are above benchmark, then you'd be able to wait a little longer?
That's a great question. I right now I have not heard that they're going to take into account, because in reality, you have to do this, but it doesn't even say you have to do anything to correct these. So we identify indoor air quality concerns, but you're obligated to do this testing, but doesn't say you have to do anything on that, believe it or not. But, once this becomes public, then certainly if there are issues with indoor quality, most of the schools are trying to figure out a way to deal with it.
Right. Thank you.
So the flip side to that question is if we were to test poorly, we don't have to do the assessments any more frequently, correct?
No, that's correct. That's, believe it or not, they just want you to do it, and then you've done it and you've satisfied the requirement. This is a work in progress with the committee. So I suspect, they recognize that all these schools are under the same gun. They don't have a budget for this work, so I think they're going to try to allow you to even maybe split up some of the schools. We have a big school district, but right now we just have to go by what the legislation says, today.
Are there any grants associated with this?
Any grants, Bill, that are associated with this that you know of?
There's to pay for this. I think there's another HVAC grant some of the schools are going after for some of the
There's an HVAC grant to do the work, but I don't think you can do the audit.
Yeah, I think you're right, Don. I think it's the grants are for the repairs.
It's on the capital side.
Right.
You can see we're fascinated by it. All right, I see no other questions, so we have a motion to authorize the superintendent and/or her designee to enter into a contract agreement with Van Zell Engineering to complete the state mandated air quality audit. Maria? Yes. Sarah Beth? Jay?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Brooke?
Yes.
And I vote yes, it's unanimous. Bill, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening. We'll look forward to seeing someone from your company here, maybe you even, the end of August.
Very good. Thank you very much. And I wish my school was this fun growing up.
Thanks for that as well. Have a great evening.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks. Next on the agenda is the HVAC maintenance service contract. This is informational. There will be no action necessary. There's something you want to say about that?
No, simply that the administration has prepared an RFP. They're going to be asking for 1 year and 3 year estimates, options. And yeah, that's it. And, anyone?
Do you have anything you want to
Yeah,
add?
this is just our annual maintenance service contract. It's over our bid limit, so this. And they have done this annually in the past, and we thought. I think why don't we ask for a 3 year option just to see if it gives us any better pricing or anything? And might save us 2 years of RP, so let's try this. We get.
Is this purely maintenance or maintenance and service?
I think there is service involved too. So if we have something,
Yeah, see,
So if something breaks down.
No, then we call them.
That's my only question.
Any other questions about that? Great, we'll look forward to hearing how what response we'll get to the RFP, Donna. Thanks on that. Moving on to policy committee. We have some policies that have been on 30-day review. Maria, do you want to?
Sure, thank you, Lynn. The policy committee met April 5th, and last month we voted to put these 4 policies on 30-day review. The policy committee is in the midst of reviewing board policies, making sure that they are updated. We have started with the 9,000 series, and the 9,000 series are the bylaws that govern the board. The first policy that we have today is policy 9131, which is an outdated policy regarding how we conduct curriculum committee. And so we are going to make a motion to delete this policy to reflect current practices. So I move that we adopt policy 9131, committee of the whole as revised.
Which is basically deleted.
Right. Is there a second? Stephen?
Any discussion on that? All those in favor and signify by raising their hand. Unanimous, Marcia, thank you. Next.
Okay. Next, we have policy 9311. This policy regards the formulation, adoption, amendment, and deletion of policies. There are some language changes to this policy regarding our procedures for changing our policies and the accessibility of our policies to the district website. So I move that we adopt policy 9311, formulation, adoption, amendment, and deletion of policies as revised.
Do I have a second? Brooke? Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous, Marcia.
Next, we have policy 9312. This is formulation, adoption, amendment, and deletion of bylaws. And again, there are some language changes about how these deletions can be brought forward and in which way they'll be discussed. So I move that we adopt policy 9312, formulation, adoption, amendment, and deletion of bylaws as revised.
Do I have a second? Brooke? Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous, Marcia. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we have policy 9313, the formulation, adoption, amendment, and deletion of administrative regulations. These are regulations that we could write that go along with you, bylaws or the policies. And the only language change to this policy is to add and deletion. So I move that we adopt policy 9313, formulation, adoption, amendment, and deletion of administrative regulations as revised.
A second? Jay? It's like, we would be right there. You were watching.
Just looking where we were.
He worked back. He was looking here. We're gonna get a little fun, little thing, and it's gonna light up. Mark, if you're confused, Maria made that motion. Jay seconded it. Any discussion on the motion, not making it or seconding it? All those in favor? It's unanimous, Marcia. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. And the policy committee is meeting again in June. We'll continue our discussion of the 9,000 series and begin discussing a comprehensive PAPE review of our policies as well. And we are happy to entertain requests for buzzers. Policy if necessary.
Yes, that's right. We have a little money left over. Don't let that go out into the public. Kate liaison report. Anything from Kate? Nothing.
Nothing new.
So I have just for your information for the board. Today I forwarded to you an update. Each board member got an update from CABE on House Bill 5003. The bill addresses education funding that would invest an addition of over $350 million to improve educational equity and student achievement. CABE is requesting that board members consider contacting their state legislators in support of this bill. So I sent it to each of you for your consideration, and feel free to reach out to our representatives. Upcoming meeting presentations. Our next board meeting is board self-evaluation. That's not right. What is our next meeting? Superintendent. So it's on the agenda incorrectly. I'm sorry.
No, it's right.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've turned the page. I'm moving on. It is superintendent evaluation, the wellness report, and professional development and evaluation update. So I want to start with wellness and professional development and evaluation update. If there's anything that the board wishes to see in either of those presentations, if you would reach out to Vonda or to me, we can make sure that those things are included in both of those reports. So that's the first thing. Next is the superintendent's evaluation. Board members are going to be asked to complete an evaluation form on our new superintendent and return it to me by May 26th in order to provide adequate time for the information to be tallied for a presentation and discussion in executive session at our next meeting on June 20th. So you can be expecting to receive that, and then make sure that you get it back to me by May 26th so that we can move forward and be prepared. Vonda also, according to our policy on evaluation with the superintendent, which she reviewed with me, will be doing a self-evaluation, and those will be the things that we will discuss on June 20th. Okay, great. That's it on that, right? Perfect. And now we're moving on to new business, which is what I was looking at, which is board self-evaluation, which is tonight. So the board has completed a self-evaluation form, and Vonda has tallied that up, and we are going to review and discuss our board self-evaluation form, and Vonda will be facilitating. So would you like me to pass this out now?
You can. Perfect. Thank you for, everybody who filled it out, but just to be clear, it was a discussion point, so you certainly would have not filled it out despite our hounding you, and just brought your ideas to the table. So it does not bind you to wherever you think you may have marked. You know, I just want to point out again how proud I am of you as a board, because not every board takes the time to even look at the benchmarks and reflect on them. Benchmarks are important. It's important for you to consider and remind yourself, oh yeah, this is the work we should be doing. And this is how I think we're doing. And then you get a chance to see how everybody else thinks you think you're doing. So that benchmarking is a nice reflective opportunity. And it's also an opportunity to kind of hold yourself accountable. But it also shows our community that you take yourselves and your roles very seriously. And that's important. When you take the time to think about how we're doing and how you can improve, the people that watch and listen, and our students are always listening, our families are always watching, you're modeling for them that this is how we get better. We think about feedback, we reflect on it, and we try to stretch and grow. So, you know, I appreciate the conversations that I know you're going to have. Get to practice your open communication skills and your listening. And talk with each other. And I'm actually going to let Lynn work through these with you. But that the areas that we're reflecting on tonight are vision, community leadership, board operations, board ethics, and board superintendent team. So you reflected on individual standards under those large buckets, and then you had an opportunity to offer some comments under those same categories. And I compiled this information, but at any point you can add your thoughts, even if they weren't previously documented. So, great. Lynn, if you wanted to start your vision and try to see what we've learned from each other as a group under vision, where do you think your strengths are as a board? Where might you be, try not to look at too many areas of growth, but in each large bucket, sometimes it's helpful to find a grow and a glow, right? Something we're really good at and something we think we might want to get a little better at. It was a Likert scale from 1 to 5, also with a not sure column.
Right. Okay, so I'll make note of number 2. Someone was not sure about the vision and mission and how they were developed.
Could you read?
Okay, it says the vision, mission, and goals are developed collaboratively with staff and the community. And so last year there was a group of staff members, both certified and not certified, board members, parents, and 2 former students who came back from Beecher Road School. Who attended Beecher Road School and came from the high school to be part of a group that worked with a facilitator to develop the vision and mission of the school district. And then they splintered off, I believe, into groups that worked this year with that facilitator and are developing goals for that align with the vision and the mission. So if that helps that not sure person, it appeared to me that we all pretty much felt very similarly about our vision. And I don't know if anyone has any comments that they want to make. This for us is a work in progress. And I have in my notes that there will be, a next step to the work that we've been doing that we started at our retreat. So
that's linked to your homework.
Yeah, that's linked to our homework. We're going to do that. We're going to do that in July. I'm going to talk about that at the very end. So we will be doing that. So does anyone else have anything they want to say about vision in terms of our board work? I think community leadership is an area where if you look at the scale, we're kind of all over the place in number 10, 11, and 12. And so In terms of advocating at the national, state, and local levels, which is number 10, the board advocates at the national, state, and local levels for students in the school district and promotes the benefits of public education. I think that that's an area we could do better in. I think we've gotten a little better in it since I first came on the board, but I still do think that that's an area, at least in terms of state, where we can advocate a little more. I think we're doing better locally, and I thank Erin for the work that she's spearheaded, and Stephen in the work that they've really spearheaded in terms of articles for the town news or letters to the editor. I think that has been helpful. I personally feel that advocating for education is like a huge job beyond what we do as board members. And how to have that happen, I struggle with that. Like, where do you find the time? You know, we're volunteers. Where do you find the time to do that? So if anyone has any thoughts and ideas about that, please jump in, because I haven't quite come up with an idea for that yet. Other than what we've done, which I'm happy. Go ahead. Jump in.
So I would just say some of the things, and again, you know, like you mentioned, Lynn, a lot of these take some additional time, but even our own legislators, usually they put out an email once a month and they'll talk about the different committees that they're on. Those that are on the education committee will list all of the bills for education, and give a small summary, which is a lot less overwhelming than going to the state page and reading through it. And many of us have gone to some of the local events that our state representatives and senators have had locally in the community to talk about education. So I think as a group, you know, I think we've made some positive movements in that direction to really advocate. I know a lot of them have been down at NEPCO, and we were all, you know, many of us were at an event there. So you're right, it is overwhelming, but I think we're beginning to develop better relationships with legislators. Any other comments on that? So the number 11 follows that is our collaboration with other school boards, superintendents, and you can see where, you know, we feel very spread out, I think, in terms of that. Like, are we doing that? Are we not doing that? How do we do that better? Is that really the direction that we want to go in? When I first came on the board, there was discussion about board members attending other WOA board meetings and coming back to report, but it's just, again, that becomes one more meeting for all of us to attend, and I'm not sure if those efforts are going to get a bang for us for doing that, is my feeling. I don't know how anybody else feels about that. If you want to think about what we could do in terms of that being part of our, you know, I think one of the things is we look at these things and decide, is that part of what we want to be our mission as a board of education?
Hi, Lynn. I mean, I agree. I think I read a lot of this and I was like, this is not realistic for anyone who's a working individual and doing this, you know, and theoretically has a kid at the school and is doing this as a volunteer. Just all of these levels in terms of what was clearly written by Kate. I think some of the questions were very clearly self-promoting, even, you could say, to being involved with CABE and continuing your involvement there. So I would say in some ways the self-assessment is biased a little bit in that sense, But I also think when we look at what's facing our current school district, we're interfacing with other districts when we need to. We're interfacing with our other, districts, Bethany, Orange, Amity, when we need to on things, and even New Haven. But we have a lot that needs to take place within our district, and I think that has to be the priority.
Right. I agree with you, Erin. And I do think that this particular board has done a really great job in terms of attending paid webinars, going to the conference in November, reaching out in those ways, much more so than past boards. So I do think we're improving in that area. And I think that, certainly our superintendent has established a fine relationship with the BOA superintendents and brings and shares information with us. So I think that that's helpful as well. But I agree with you, Erin. I think we have to just prioritize what we need to do. And I don't necessarily think that's where we should be putting all of our energies to try to change that score.
Lynn, I agree. The one place, in a sense, one place where I think we could interpret community leadership a bit more broadly, and I think it speaks to sort of the communications piece Erin has spearheaded and some other communications we've had, is as we think about the way the school needs to evolve, that we, in a sense, really think strategically about how we're communicating regularly with the broader community and even with parents within the school, because there's a way, as a busy parent, you may not really be thinking about the bigger issue. You're thinking the bigger issues of how this school and this school district is functioning. And certainly for community members whose children may have aged out of the school, or they may not have kids yet, or they're younger, they're not quite involved. I think I think what would be helpful is for us as a board to think about, are there points, for example, when the first iteration of the ad hoc committee completes its work, that we together create a communication that shares back with the community what we've learned and what this may be suggesting about possible directions. So, we're, in a sense, we're beginning to plant seeds for the community really thinking and understanding that this is a dynamic institution and it's going to need to evolve. It's not static. It's not the Beecher 20 years ago. This is where we are now, and here's how we're thinking about the future. So thinking about it in that way, I'm like, that I can see is absolutely a role for us in partnership with Vonda and the administrative team.
Yeah.
See, to piggyback on that, I would say if I take 11 and 12, given we've got a single superintendent for a single school, much of that is done by the superintendent and presented to us and executed at the Lisa level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think when I read those two questions, I was a little confused because it should have said the board in collaboration with the administrative team and the superintendent. And then I think that would be a clear answer on the left-hand side for most of us.
Right.
Right. I would add that for next time.
So, well, and you know what, maybe for us, we tweaked the tool for next year. So that, right, so that, because clearly, and I think Erin made that point. PAVE wants you to collaborate with other school districts and, attend all of these events and network with these other school districts, some of which are not at all similar to us. I mean, we are very unique. You go and you talk to the superintendent of, Hamden or West Haven, and they're dealing with, multiple schools, a high school, a middle school, sometimes two middle schools. And then they look at you and they say, oh, you have one school? So I think that we have to you're right, Jay, do our own thing, find our people who can help us to grow.
And I think we're very fortunate to have one superintendent who takes a lot of weight from us in terms of providing that information to us
Right.
at our meetings. I think that's very, very beneficial.
Right. And I know Rhonda meets monthly with the BOA superintendent. So,
Right, I think
so that's, I think, very helpful.
it's very helpful for all of us. Then we are constantly emailing and following and
Right.
all of us.
Anything else on community leadership? Moving on to board operations. Anyone I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about board operations, but you guys should probably speak to me about board operations if there's a problem. Anything? Nothing?
Yeah, I mean, looking across it generally, it speaks to the fact that we've got a pretty well-run board and very.
Right. And again,
we're all feeling pretty okay with it.
I mean, I brought, I have a little notebook with the years that I've been on the board and we've done this. And this is substantially different than other years that we have done this work. And I think that it's, you all pat yourselves on the back because I think we work very well together. And I think that's what makes our board successful. So I do think that board operations is a strength. And I think that most importantly, as it has been pointed out in town recently, about the changes in administration, the changes in the superintendent, the changes in the business manager. This board particularly has really done a great job of being able to pull together and work as there's been multiple changes and have embraced the people that we've brought to work with us. So I'm very proud. So, and I think you all should be too. Board ethics. So code of ethics, I believe is in our policies. I think it's in the 1000 series. Yep. Yeah. So for whomever was not sure, there is a code of ethics in our policies. You can look them up online. I think that we try to follow. I think we're all ethical for the most part, and we maintain confidentiality.
That's a difficult question to ask because I can only talk about myself.
Right.
That's my response.
Right.
And even sure.
Good point. Yeah.
I like it for the most part.
Okay.
What? I went to the point of short because my answer was can only speak for myself.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have suggested getting a button. There's ethics for you.
I was gonna say, Lynn, I think you're the most ethical of any of us.
I feel that, and I'm just gonna speak personally, but the fact that every single member here, no matter how they vote, doesn't go out in the community. I have heard nothing about, well, somebody's bad. That shouldn't have voted, we shouldn't have voted that way, or that's not right, or whatever. And that's different than it was a couple of years ago. Would you agree with that, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So kudos to all of you for that. And I think that the board operations and the board ethics really makes such a difference for the superintendent and for the rest of the administration. So I think that that's really key for us.
I think what you can't see here is that there's a high level of trust on the administrator side of you as individuals and as a body. And that is because of your ethics and integrity and how you conduct yourself. You can't measure that. There's no little bucket here that says the administration trust us. They do.
Yeah, we should probably have asked, for some people to fill out a little evaluation on us.
Yeah, you do a 360.
Do a 360 on us. I mean, I do feel as though the feedback that I'm getting now is much more positive. People say, like, they talk about the collective board as being supportive and professional and ethical and involved and interested. So I think that's a real strength, an area of strength for us. Any other comments? I'm doing an awful lot of talking. Board superintendent team. Do you want to say anything about the board superintendent team?
I feel very fortunate. I feel like we are all working hard to learn each other. I mean, I started mid-December and I feel like you welcomed me. I feel like you all have interacted with me and shared your hopes and your goals and pieces about yourself as humans. And I continue to advocate that the best way to get work done is to build relationships that can build trust. And I feel like we really started that work and I look forward to continuing it.
Yeah, I would like say that on the flip side about you, Rhonda. I think it's good work.
It's the right word. It's good work. You are great people. It's the right word. This town is lucky to have you.
I mean, I would just add, I feel like this really, where our work as a board, as a team comes into play is that you became a part of the team right away.
I feel like that.
But there's also, but I feel, I mean, and I hope it's the case, and we'll have the evaluation next month, but I hope there's a feeling that also that information is being conveyed in a centralized way. I mean, my perception is that it is that, you know, you're not getting things from every angle. But I also appreciate, I mean, I will just say, you know, the kind of preview, my take on your evaluation, what I appreciated is that you, like any member of this board, also push back when you need to. And make sure there's full context and full perspective to inform the decision-making of the board. And that is so critical. And it's just been invaluable.
Anyone else? So the last part were comments. I think some of them we've covered. Vision continues to be a work in progress, clearly. People said that. Community leadership, we're improving our communications. Is that still an area that we need to be in tune to and be cognizant of the work that needs to be done there? Probably.
I believe from the last evaluation, communication was something that was really high priority, all levels, I think. School to the community.
Yeah. You know, Ruchi made a statement about having an opportunity for board members to sit down with the PTO board. I think that's a positive suggestion and one that we should embrace. And, you know, whether it's a small group of the board that sits, or whether we can all do that. I think that would be very helpful. So we'll, if that's everyone's desire, we can try to schedule something when there's a new board, PTO board. I think that would be helpful. Also, which did not happen this year because of multiple reasons, but one, because of the change in the administrative team and the superintendent particularly, the board, the teachers have the opportunity through their contract to sit down with the board in the meet and discuss portion of their contract. That did not happen this year, but again, that's an opportunity for give and take and for us to listen and for them to say what they're thinking as well. And as you said, Jay, a little bit of a 360 for us, So I think that's not a bad thing to look down the road for next year also. And so a board lead member to function as an advocate liaison on the state level. I think that's fine if somebody wants to volunteer for that position. I'm just going to tell you it won't be me. But Brooke said, is that Aaron?
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot, right? It's a lot. So, but be thinking about that if you're interested in that. And also like the suggestion, whomever made it, about promoting the accomplishments of the students. And I do think we have to I think that's one area where we have to work on. And I think we're going to have to help the administration do this because I think it's a little beyond our purview, but getting some really positive things into the local newspaper for the community to see the great things that are happening. That's part of communication, because there are people in Woodbridge who have no idea what's going on here. They just don't. And I think that we have to, kind of toot our own horn and say, look, people, great things are happening here. And it's hard for the superintendent, Lisa, Jimmy, to be the only ones doing those little press releases. But, today we honored these kids who are exceptional. We should put their picture in the newspaper, I think. If the parents agree, right. We should, have, an article about something some kids are learning. So that the community knows what's going on in the school, because although we had times when there were 200 people who were remotely logging into our meeting when the school was reopened after COVID, tonight we had 15, and I was one, and Anthony's picture of all of us was another, and Vonda was one, and Mark was one. But to get the greater community to know what's going on, I think we have to do something to work on that. So be thinking about that for our mission and vision and our next steps. Anybody else want to say anything about our board? Besides, we're grateful.
Just one thing on that note, there've been a lot of blow-ups in school districts across the state and really across the country. We have had such a blow-up, and I think that's a testament to how well we're run as the board and our willingness to collaborate with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And even with the community, Mike, there've been situations where volatile situations with community people coming to board meetings.
Yeah.
And I think that we, you know, really worked on having our meetings be respectful and we listened to everyone who's come. And I agree. Yeah, it's good things. That's a very good thing. Okay. Thus ends our board self-evaluation with my comments about next steps. We will be working on, as Vonda talked about earlier, establishing a mission and vision and setting our goals for 23-24. We had difficulty finding a date for a special meeting to accomplish that task. So Vonda and I talked about it and decided that at our regularly scheduled July Board of Ed meeting, which usually has a very light agenda, that we will use that meeting as a working meeting for the purpose of doing that work. So thus Vonda has given us some homework to do. And I'm going to ask, I know it's July and it's vacation, but I'm going to ask that everybody really make every effort to attend that meeting, because that work that we do is going to, it's a ripple effect. We set our goals, then, you know, the superintendent sets her goals and the administrative team set their goals, and it's a ripple effect. So please note that July will be the time when we do that. Time for my monthly community service announcement, although some of these things have already been announced. I know that people do watch on Government Access TV, so I will repeat them. The Enrollment-Instructional Needs and Space Planning Committee is meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, May 17th at 4:30 p.m. The committee will also meet again on Wednesday, June 7th at 4:30 p.m. The policy meeting committee is meeting, as Maria said, on Tuesday, June 6th at 4:30. The next finance committee meeting will be Tuesday, June 13th at 4:30. And I'd like you to note out there in TV land and board members, please note that the regularly scheduled June Board of Education meeting has been changed from Monday, June 19th to Tuesday, June 20th to allow community members to celebrate Juneteenth if they so choose, and that meeting will be held at 7 p.m. Okay, public comment. We're back to public comment. I'm going to scroll and see if Jane Roddy has any public comment. God bless you, Jane. All right, no public comment that I see. And so we're moving on to 5B, which is executive session. The board will enter into executive session in accordance with state statute for the purpose of discussion with respect to the collective bargaining contract of the Director of Business and Operations. So I will need a motion to go into executive session, inviting Superintendent Vonda Tenz. You making that motion? You're seconding that motion? Jeff Hughes is making the motion to enter into executive session to discuss negotiations with respect to collective bargaining and to discuss the prospective 2023-2024 Director of Business Services and Operations contract, inviting the superintendent to join the board. Jay Dahlia has seconded that motion. All those in favor? It is unanimous, Marcia. Thank you. I expect that there will potentially be a vote following the executive session.